Hello everyone, today I am here to do another Mashup review. So as always, if you're unfamiliar with my Mashup reviews on my channel, that's where I take my 3 most recent reads. Usually I try to pair them with a similar genre. Sometimes that ends up good, sometimes not. This video in case is good. And I review them all for you in one video. I tell you what the book is about, what I thought about it, and what I rated about it, usually without any sort of spoilers. So today is a YA contemporary Mashup review. So these are my 3 most recent contemporary reads within the YA genre. As always, I will leave timestamps down below for you if you want to hear about one particular book or if you want to hear about all of them, just continue watching. The 3 books I will be talking about today is Small Town Hearts by Lily Vale, Heart in a Body of the World by Deb Coletti, and Fame, Fate, and the First Kiss by Casey West. So 2 of these books have been recently released. This one actually is not getting released until March, so giving you a sneak peek of what I thought about it. And this one was just recently released. This one got released last year, but I'd still say it's kind of recent. So the first book I'm talking about today is Small Town Hearts by Lily Vale. Like I said, this just released, or this is going to be released next month. This is all about a girl named Babe. It's in a very small town in Maine. It's called Orr's Rest in Maine, and she works at a very small coffee place called the Busy Bean, and she's really content with her life. She loves small town life. She knows what to expect every single day. She knows who she is, who her friends are, and then her summer kind of drastically changed. So she thought she was going to have a great summer with her 2 best friends, and it turns out it's not going to be the case. She gets into a little bit of her predicament with her friends because they kind of want to go off and do bigger things in their life, and she's very content where she is. Also, her ex-girlfriend is back in town for the summer from school, so that's shaking up things. And then she meets a new guy that starts coming into the Busy Bean who's there for the summer, and the #1 rule in this town is don't fall for a summer boy because it's very touristy and things like that, and Babe does just that. So I really wanted to enjoy this book because it's got a lot of things I love in books. #1, Maine. I have this weird obsession with Connecticut, Maine type of area. I don't know what it is about it. It's like the sea type of area. It's the quaint smallness of it. I don't know. I'm just obsessed with it. So I loved the fact that it was set in Maine because I'm just kind of obsessed with it. #2, it's kind of in a small beachy, it's not beachy, but seafront town where they really have a lot of small shops, and it's set in a coffee shop. I don't know what it is. If it's like a book set in a bakery or a coffee shop, I'm immediately drawn to them, but overall, all the books I've read that are setting, I don't love. I think I'm just drawn to them, so I don't know what that says about me. And it had a summer romance. I'm a sucker for summer romances. Overall, I enjoyed this book. I didn't love it. I'd say if you're a really huge YA contemporary fan, definitely check it out. If you're looking for select contemporaries that are just gonna knock you off your feet and wow you, I don't think this one will be it. I will say, the way she wrote about this town, Orr's Rest, made me want to move there. The way she wrote about all these restaurants and shop that sell Maine specialties and food and things like that, it was described beautifully. I was hungry throughout the entirety of reading this book, so goodness me, that's a good thing about it. But overall, I think also what I didn't love about this book is I enjoyed the main character, Babe. Babe had a lot of really good character development. She thinks one thing in the beginning of the book, and she kind of finds herself throughout the entirety of it, but her friends were just horrible. The relationship she had with them was just at the end everything was okay, but it took a long time to get there, and I don't feel like the whole relationship between her and her friends was just it wasn't very nice, let's just say that. I don't know if I'm the only one that feels that way. I just didn't love it. The romance was cute. It was adorable. It was a very much, YA contemporary setting of a romance. So overall, I gave this one a 3 out of 5. I enjoyed it. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. It kind of falls in the middle of the pack for me as far as contemporaries go, but I'd say if you're a sucker for books set in Maine, in Cape Cod type of towns, and summer romances and things like that, I would highly recommend checking this book out. If not, I understand. The next book I want to talk about is A Heart in the Body of the World by Deb Coletti. I have been meaning to read this book ever since it came out. I think it came out in September of last year, and I have just heard amazing things about her books, and in particular this one. Deb Coletti has written a ton of books. I have read none of them. This was my very first book, but this one has gotten a lot of buzz. It just recently, I think, won the a Prince Medal for literacy writing or something of that nature. It was nominated. I don't know. I don't keep up with that. I'm sorry, I don't. But that being said, I don't hear a ton about it on BookTube. I've heard about it from a select few channels, but it's not nearly as widespread as it deserves. This book was amazing. I expected to love it, and I was 100% right about it. The book is a lot of things going into it. We follow a main character named Annabelle, and something in Annabelle's life has happened. You as the reader do not know what has happened to her. You will figure out what has happened to her or piece it together as the story progresses. But basically, at the beginning of this book, something has happened to Annabelle, and she wants to change things. She lives in Seattle, Washington, and she wants to run all the way to Washington, D.C. to make a difference, to do something with her life, to make this big, you know, drastic change, or make this emphasis of what has happened in her life. I know that's very vague to say. Something's happened in her life, so she's running across the country. Why is she running across the country? I can't tell you that. You're gonna have to read to find out for yourself, but I can guarantee you that it's a very good reason. This book just really follows her journey. You're going along with her journey as she runs every single day. She meets up with her grandpa, who follows along with her in an RV, so he'll drop her off for the day and then like drive 20 miles, because she literally runs 20 miles, like 16 to 20 miles a day. He meets her at where she's gonna stop, and they kind of, you know, he's just her team. She also has her little brother and 2 other friends at home that are kind of running her social media and like her funding and things like that. Basically about Annabelle's journey to running throughout cross country, and also about her journey with grief and what has happened to her, this big tragic thing that has happened to her, and for her standing up for what she believes in, and for her making a difference in a really horrible thing that's happening in this country. So overall, I loved it. This book has so many things. It's all about, you know, standing up for what you believe in, a lot about gun violence, a lot about females' rights. The way Deb Coletti writes is just effortless to me, honestly. Like, I flew through this book. I also loved at the beginning of each chapter, learned like 3 to 5 facts about the heart. Sometimes she would talk about different songs about the heart. Sometimes she would talk about hearts and animals, just the heart in general, because that is what this whole book was about heart, and more specifically the hearts in all of us. So I love that. But Deb Coletti just wrote Annabelle beautifully. I loved reading about her journey and about herself, and how this event that's happened in her life that has changed her from her core. Like, there's no going back after this event. The one thing I didn't love, there was kind of a romance in this book. I don't feel like that was necessary, honestly, but I didn't hate it either. Like, I was okay with it. I didn't love it. Overall, 5 out of 5, one of my new favorite all-time Y. Contemporary books. And I don't say that lightly. Like, it takes a lot for me to give contemporary books 5 out of 5. I don't know if I'm just too harsh on them or too judgy. I don't know, but either way, I love this one. I want to reread it already. If you've read any of other Deb Coletti's books, let me know, because I want to read all of her books now. This one is just so impactful, and it's very beautifully written, and it's a story that needs to be told, and I think everyone needs to read it. So highly, highly recommend it. This needs to be talked about on BookTube far more than it is. And the last book I want to talk about is Fame, Fate, and the First Kiss by Casey West. Casey West is one of my favorite Y contemporary authors. I just read everything she writes. They are my guilty pleasure books. Do I get the same sort of message and emotional impact as I do with these type of books? No, I don't. But Casey West is just my, like I said, guilty pleasure, my cotton candy, fluffy type of reads. I just read these when I'm feeling down or when I want to pick me up. I just turn to her books. So I've read all of them before. I've done a whole video talking about every single one of her books, which ones are my favorites, which ones are my least favorite. So you can check that up right here. But this one is her latest one. This one follows the main character named Lacey. And Lacey is a up-and-coming actress in Hollywood. She's on her very first movie, and it's basically following her filming her first movie. It's like a zombie horror movie, and she's also in high school, and she's struggling with that, so her dad hires a tutor, and she starts to have feelings for her tutor, and that's the whole plot. There's not much to it, honestly. Also mentioned that I buddy read this with Amy over a Quart of Crowns and Quills and Mel from Mel to the Any, and we all kind of had the same feelings about it. Also, coincidentally, this was their very first Casey West book they ever read, and after I finished it, I was very nervous because I was like, oh, I don't know if they're gonna read anymore, because this one I didn't really love, but I think they're gonna read more Casey West books, so I'm happy about it. So if I could put this in like Casey West books, I would probably put it in the middle of the pack. It wasn't one of my least favorite books, but it definitely wasn't one of my favorites. I think what I didn't love about this book is I usually love books that are set in Hollywood and movie sets and things like that. There are several books I've read that are some of my favorites, honestly, that kind of have that Hollywood vibe to them. But this one I didn't love. And I think of a chapter, you got a little bit of the dialogue from the movie that she was in, like a zombie horror movie, and it was like 3 lines, and I'm like, I need more. Like, I don't know anything about this movie, and what we got was not nearly like in depth enough or didn't add anything to the story in my opinion. Lacey was an okay character. She was very full of herself, I'm not gonna lie to you. She was very, you know, I'm an actress, this is who I am, you know, me kind of thing. And the love interest was, I think, the shining star of this book. Like Donovan, loved him, he was adorable. My favorite part of this whole book, but I liked it, I didn't love it. Like I said, it's not one of my favorite Casey West books. Will I continue to read Casey West books? Yeah, probably, because they just like, they don't really add a lot of depth and perspective to my day, but they had a smile and a good time, so I call that a win. So overall, I would give this a 3 out of 5. I have some Casey West where I rated them 4.5 out of 5, and there's some that I've rated like 2. So Casey West is an author that I will always read, but it's not going to be a guarantee whether or not I love her books. So there you have it. Those are my thoughts on these 3 books right here. If you've read any of these 3, I would love to hear your thoughts and opinions. Did we have the same ones? Did we have different ones? Let's talk about it all in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, and I will see you guys in my next one.